Numbers 11. Now when the people complained, it displeased the Lord. For the Lord heard it, and his anger was aroused. So the fire of the Lord came down and burned among them and consumed them in the outskirts of the camp. So here we have the Israelites, and here's the camp. And this is Moses, okay? So the people complained, and God sent a fire down, and it burned them. Then the people cried out to Moses. And when Moses prayed to the Lord, the fire was quenched. So as you can see, Moses has favor with God, and he prayed to God, and God stopped the fire. So he called the name of the place Taberah, and Taberah is somewhere that, Taberah is the location that the Israelites passed through during their journey out of Egypt. And because the fire of the Lord had burned among them, Moses called out to them in this place that they were at. And so now the mixed multitude were among them yielded to intense cravings. Who knows what a craving is? You're like really wanting something, yearning for something. Looks like most of you guys know what it means. So these people all had intense cravings. So the children of Israel also wept and said, "Who will give us meat to eat?" Okay, so here's all the people, and they're all at their camp. They just set up in Taberah, one of the locations that they were traveling through out of Egypt, and they're complaining to Moses. And Moses is sitting here after, God just set a fire down on the camp. And now they're complaining. And, God saved. God pulled his people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. They were slaves down there. God rescued them, And here they are now complaining about how they have no meat. And as we learned today, and my God shall supply all your needs according to his riches and glory by Jesus Christ. So these people should have known that just by going to God with grateful hearts, not ungrateful hearts, with grateful hearts, thankful of that what God has done for all of them, all they would have to do is just go to God and be like, "Dear Lord, thank you so much."
At this time, God was actually feeding them manna.
Yeah.
I mean, he was
so they have food.
He was supplying their needs.
Yep. Yeah, we will get into what manna is, but that's very good. Yeah. So God was giving them stuff, but they wanted more. They didn't want manna, just like this bread. They wanted meat. So they started complaining to God after all he did for them. And God says he will always supply for them. So they should have known. Now they go on to say, "We remember the fish which we ate freely in Egypt, the place where they were kept captive. And they remember the cucumbers and the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. But now our whole being is dried up. There's nothing at all except this manna before our eyes." Now, manna was what God sent down from heaven. And manna is described in the Bible as being like coriander seed, which is like a seed to a plant, almost very similar to like the seed to cilantro. Cilantro almost comes from like the same plant, the coriander seed. What they do with the seed is kind of like grind it up. And in the Bible it says it was white in color. And when the manna fell, when it was raw, before they baked the manna, cooked it, because they didn't really bake back then, but they cooked the manna. And when the manna fell from heaven with the mildew, so like imagine like in the middle of the night when, you ever gone camping, okay? And you look up at the tent and there's like water drops all over your tent. Yeah, that's like mildew or condensation. And God sent manna down the same time mildew was coming out at night. But mildew raw, they said, tasted like honey and wafers. Doesn't that sound pretty good? How many of you would want to eat something that God sends from heaven that tastes like honey and wafers?
Never know.
Especially if you have no food around you and God is supplying you with this tasty stuff.
If I don't like honey, but I'd be honey.
Yeah, that's a good comment. Let's raise your hand, okay? You guys got comments, just raise your hand. Because I'm sure we would all love to hear it, as long as you relate respectfully. So what they would do with this manna that came down from heaven is they would gather it and they would ground it pretty much into like a powder with a mill that they had or stones, or they would beat it. And then they would cook it in pans, not bake. They would like cook it, in a pan. And they said that when it was cooked, it tasted like cakes baked with oil. Doesn't that sound pretty good?
And back then, olive oil was like really expensive.
Yeah, cakes baked with oil. Yeah, I know. It just came straight from heaven. And the cool thing about manna, because I was doing some research last night, is that manna does not have salt, sugar, yeast, or gluten, which is like, the main ingredients, you need for like cake. So this is like heaven cake. This is even cooler. And when it's raw, wafers and honey. How many of you have dipped your finger in the raw, batter and eaten it? And it just tastes so good.
Cookie batter.
I know. Yeah, now imagine like that, but in more of a solid form falling from heaven. That is so yummy. But yet these people complained. They were ungrateful that God was giving them manna. Like, what? And so they would cook it, and it tasted like cake with oil. And when the dew fell on the camp in the morning, so did the manna. Then Moses heard the people weeping throughout their families, still complaining. And everyone at the door of Moses' tent. And the anger of the Lord was greatly aroused. Moses also was displeased. So not only was God upset with how much the Israelites were complaining, Moses was also upset. Moses was like, why are they coming to me like I'm their God? He's like, I'm not their God. Don't they know that it wasn't me who rescued them out of Egypt? It was you, Lord. So Moses was also upset by how much the Israelites were complaining. So Moses said to the Lord, why have you afflicted your servants? And why have I not found favor in your sight, that you have laid the burden of all these people on me? Did I conceive all these people? Did I beget them? That you should say to me, carry them in your bosom, as a guardian carries a nursing child, to the land which you swore to their fathers. Because right now Moses is taking them to the promised land, which God swore to their fathers. And then Moses goes on saying to God, where am I to get meat to give to all these people? For they weep all over me, saying, give us meat that we may eat. I am not able to bear all these people alone, because the burden is too heavy for me. If you treat me like this, Lord, please kill me here and now, if I have found favor in your sight, and do not let me see my wretchedness. So Moses right now is complaining that the burden of all these crying people. Well, I wouldn't say Moses is complaining. Moses is more irritated. He's like upset with how much these people are crying. And so God comes out with a solution, because he's starting to feel like the burden of all these people. Because Moses is like, he's kind of the head of what's going on here. He's in charge, and he has all these people coming, all these ungrateful people coming to him complaining about manna. And so Lord says to Moses, gather to me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom you know to be the elders of the people, and officers over them. Bring them to the tabernacle of meeting, that they may stand there with you. So God says, now call all the elders, all the wise men, anybody that is highly regarded. So anybody that's respected. Moses. So Moses gathers everybody. He starts talking to them, and here's all the elders. You can kind of tell they're older, highly respected, as if you would respect your grandma or grandpa. And then the Lord says to them, then I will come down and I will talk with you there. I will take of the spirit that is upon you, Moses, and he will put the same spirit that is on Moses, and he will lay it upon all the 70 elders of the camp. And then they shall bear the burden of the people with you, that you may not bear it yourself alone. So let's say you're just carrying a backpack full of weights. That's how Moses was feeling, just the weight of all these people. And what God did was he grabbed 70 of the elders, put backpacks on them, and he grabbed the weight out of Moses' backpack, and he divided it into all the 70 elders. So that way they would all carry the burden of what was happening in camp. Then you shall say to your people, consecrate yourselves for tomorrow, and you shall eat meat. For you have wept in the hearing of the Lord, saying, who will give us meat to eat? For it was well with us in Egypt. So pretty much what they're saying is, they're complaining to God, who will give us meat? We had a bunch of meat in Egypt. Like, why did we have to leave Egypt? We were doing just fine there. So they're still complaining. And therefore the Lord will give you meat, and you shall eat. You shall eat not 1 day, not 2 days, not 5 days, not even 10 days, nor 12 days, but for a whole month, until the meat comes out of your nostrils and becomes loathsome to you. Anybody know what loathsome means? Loathsome means like causing hatred or disgust. Like they will soon become disgusted by the meat. It's like it will almost be like repulsive to them. You know what I mean? They'll be so tired of meat by the time God brings it down, and they just continue to eat it. And so he said, until it comes out of your nostrils and becomes loathsome to you, because you have despised the Lord who is among you, and you have wept before him, saying, why did we ever come out of Egypt? You know how like bad that sounds? Oh, why did we ever come out of the place where we were whipped and beaten, and all these bad things happened to us? Oh, how could you, God? We were doing so fine there with all the meat and food. Doesn't that sound pretty silly? Don't you think so? God is doing all of this for them, saving them, keeping the generation going, and they're just complaining because they don't have meat. Now, how many of you know that if they were to go to God, more like, because right now they're going to God like this, oh God, we have no meat, and we were doing so good, and now I'm just irritated, and I'm tired of manna, and everything is horrible, and life sucks, blah, blah. That's how they were going to God. But imagine if they came to God like this. Dear Lord, thank you so much for what you have done. You rescued my people out of Egypt. The Israelites are going to the promised land, Lord. I thank you for how much you have provided for us throughout this whole trip, God. We just ask you now, will you give us meat, God? We are so thankful for everything you do for us. Will you just bless us with meat? Do you think saying it like that would have been more effective? Do you think God would have given them meat without, it having to come out of their nostrils and become disgusting to them? I think so. If they came to God with a better heart, not being ungrateful, then God would have helped them. That is not why they're getting in trouble here. It's because of how they came to God and how their heart was. So Moses said to the people, who I am among are 600,000 men on foot. Yet you have said, I will give them meat, that they shall eat meat for a whole month. And then Moses goes on saying, shall flocks and herds be slaughtered for them to provide enough for them? Or shall all the fish of the sea be gathered together for them to provide enough for them? At this point, Moses is irritated. He's like, will it ever be enough? Will anything you do, God, ever be enough for these people? Do I have to grab all the fish of the sea and give it to them? Do I have to kill all the flocks in the world? Or, all the herds in the world of animals just to make these people, grateful? Just to please them? So Moses is pretty irritated. And so then the Lord replied to Moses, has the Lord's arm been shortened? Now you will see whether what I say will happen to you or not. So Moses went out and he told the people the words of the Lord. And he gathered the 70 men of the elders of the people and placed them around the tabernacle, which we don't have, but you guys have heard about the tabernacle, I'm pretty sure. Then the Lord came down in the cloud and spoke to them and took of the Spirit that was upon him and placed the same upon the 70 elders. And it happened when the Spirit rested upon them that they all prophesied, although they never did so again. So what happened was, God came down, okay? God's up here in heaven. Hey guys, let's look up here, okay? Let's look up here. I know the Bibles are interesting, but when you go home, you have plenty of time to look through your Bible. So God's up here, and Moses did exactly what God said. He brought 70 of the elders from their camp, and God placed the Spirit that was upon Moses that was just burdensome to him. He was feeling all the weight of these people. And God grabbed all that weight, and he put it, and he divided it in between all the 70 elders. And what happened once they had the Holy Spirit on them is they all started to prophesy in the camp. But God said, once they prophesied, they would never do so again.
So they're done upstairs.
They're done upstairs, really? Okay, good. Okay, let me go forward. Okay, so now, once all this happened, a wind went out from the Lord, and a bunch of quail came. Anybody know what quail are? Quail are like little brown birds. Oh, okay. So as you can see, they're running out from the distance. There's quail everywhere. Enough for everybody to eat.
Quail?
Quail, there we go. Not quill. Quail.
You had me confused for a minute there.
So as you can see, they're everywhere. They're just coming out. And the people start gathering them day and night. As the Lord promised, because, they complained so much about wanting the quail. Quail
are kind of like
Quail.
a small chicken.
Yeah, they're like ground birds. I have it written down right here. Yeah, they're just small ground nesting birds. They don't really fly. They're kind of like turkeys, but smaller.
Chickens.
Yeah, like chickens. But they came out, and the people gathered them all night and all day, as God had promised to them. But before, as God said, they would eat these for months. Because they were ungrateful, they weren't deserving of this. But instead of, people collecting the quail, as they collected them, God said that before they even got the chance to chew the meat in their mouths, all of them died because of how ungrateful they were. So no, they didn't have meat for months. They barely even had it for a day.
Everybody died.
Yep. Well, all the ones who were ungrateful. God actually said here, and they spread them out all around the camp, but while the meat was still between their teeth, before it was chewed, the wrath of the Lord was aroused against the people, and the Lord struck the people with a very great plague. And so he called the name of that place Kibroth Hattava, because they were buried the people who had yielded to craving. So the ones who died were the people who had yielded to craving, the ones who were ungrateful for what God was giving them. Just think about it. They were getting manna, bread, honey and wafer tasting bread. It was so good. But instead they were ungrateful after everything God had did for them. And they wanted meat. They didn't have enough. They didn't satisfy their cravings. And so those who were satisfied, they were saved. They were saved by God. Those who were not, those who were ungrateful, as soon as they started to eat, a plague came upon all of them, and it killed them. So that is the lesson today, guys. That is Numbers 11. So now you guys kind of understand that, and just like the memory verse here, God already tells us He will supply all of our needs. All of our needs. So if you come to God and you start, to be ungrateful, even though His Word has already said He will help you no matter what, and you come to God and you start to doubt how much He can help you, then, it just makes God sad and angry. Because He's already told you, you should know that, He'll take care of you. God will always take care of you. You just have to come to Him with a grateful heart for what He has already done for you. And you just continue to ask God, for all these blessings and just, miracles to happen and just for Him to supply according to His riches and glory. And so, it wasn't that the people ate meat or, it wasn't that God's just a mean God and He just wants to kill people. It was because, they were ungrateful and they didn't come to God with a good heart. They came to God with a, ungrateful, nasty, kind of like a spoiled heart. Like, we want this. Well, I want this. Why?
Selfish.
Selfish. That's the word I was looking for. Very selfish heart. And so that is the story today, guys.